Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hilary. I'm a medium psychic. If you're new here and don't know anything about me, I use my gifts as a medium to channel my spirit guides and other spirits who have crossed over to the other side to give clarification and guidance to people who have answers in regards to true crime cases, missing people. I also do card readings for the collective and for my subscribers. I also do spiritual teachings, which is what today's video is going to be about. So if you would like to see more of my videos, you could click the little bell notification to get notified when I upload new videos. If you could follow, subscribe, like, all those wonderful things, it would really, really help me and I greatly appreciate it. And we'll just get right into the video. So it's been a few days, you guys, since I have been on here recording. That's just because I haven't been feeling too good. I feel like I'm sick all the time, but it's probably just because I have children and they like to bring their sicknesses home from school and give them to me. So, but yeah, I'm just not feeling good. I have a bit of a cold. That's why I also sound a bit stuffed up. But I'm going to record today anyways because I really want to get this video out there. This is a video that I have wanted to do since I pretty much started YouTube, but I've just been putting it off because it's quite personal to me and it's something that I experienced when I went through my spiritual awakening. And I have wanted to share it with you guys and the collective for a while. It's just one of those things that I guess in a way is a little bit, it's a little bit not embarrassing, it makes you feel vulnerable, right? So because it's a personal experience. So, but I do feel like it's important to share, and I feel like my experiences would also help others relate because I know other people have been through the same experiences that I have in regards to going through an awakening and having experiences with the other side and archangels and everything else. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you guys what happened when I went into meditation one time after my awakening and I had an experience with Jesus, otherwise known as Yeshua. So a few months after, I wrote down my whole thing like I usually do for you guys here, so I'm just going to read it to you. So a few months after my awakening, I had spent lots of time in meditation, healing, and connecting with my spirit guides. One of the experiences I had in meditation one day that I was lucky enough to be a part of and witness was with Jesus, or better known as Yeshua. If you guys don't know, that was his real name actually. When he was in human form, they called him Yeshua. So he came to me when I was working on healing my inner child and doing shadow work and working with my emotions and detachment problems that I had with people, as well as the problems I had with my father in regards to him not being there for me emotionally like I would have liked him to. I love my father. I love my father. He's an amazing man. This isn't in any way bashing my father or anything like that. It's just he was a great father in so many ways, and we all have our problems as parents. We all lack things, so I do not blame him. I forgive him on every level. We all have, I know now as a parent that we all have things that we lack in and that we need help with. So I needed my father to be there for me more emotionally. He wasn't a very touchy-feely type of dad, and I needed that from him and did not receive it. So I had this emptiness inside me that I was constantly trying to fill. So at this point, I was doing shadow work for a little while, and this was one of the things that I was avoiding because it's one of those things that was really hurtful, and I was kind of putting this off to the last minute type of thing. One of the things I was trying to heal, this is one of them, and it was just something that I was sort of avoiding. However, it turned out to be a very beautiful experience and one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in my life. So I was in meditation, and Yeshua came to me in a beautiful big field full of pink and yellow flowers, and the feeling I immediately felt was an overwhelming feeling of love, joy, and happiness as soon as I had seen him standing there in the field. I recognized him immediately and felt an unconditional, intense, very intense love for this person. He looked like how I pictured him my whole life. But as I now know, being a medium, that spirits will come to us most of the time the way that we picture them, or I guess know them to look like. And so he came to me the way I would have pictured him, Jesus, to look like. He was wearing a long white robe. He had brown hair about down to his shoulders. It was wavy. And he had the most beautiful blue eyes I have ever seen in my life. He was glowing. There was a big bright light behind him, and it was absolutely stunning. I was speechless. He didn't say anything right away. He just sort of looked at me and kind of smiled, and I walked up to him, and right away I fell into his arms and immediately began to cry into his arms. I felt like a child being held by my father. The truth was, the sun was in the background, and it was the most beautiful, bright sun I had ever seen in my life. So the colors in this visual meditation were more beautiful than I could even describe to you guys with words. It was just, the colors were so vibrant that we would never see colors this vibrant here on this earth. They were incredible. And then I began to telepathically tell him why I was upset. So there was no talking with our mouths. It was just like a knowing between each other. And this is called telepathy. So I began to tell him why I was upset and crying telepathically because he had asked me why. He responded with, "I know, child, you don't have to tell me why. I already know." Immediately I felt the space within my heart that was so empty for all these years from not having the love I needed from my father it felt like it was being filled with a bright light. It was very healing. It felt like a bunch of love and light was being, the space was filling, that was so empty for so many years, was filling with this healing light. And it no longer felt empty anymore. He then told me that he was my father, and that the human father I had in my human life was not really my father. He told me that he was the only man I could ever possibly need. And although we love other humans here in this human life and on this earth, which is what we are supposed to do as well, that no one could love me as much as he loves me. He told me that whenever I'm feeling this way, to meditate and try and channel him in, and he would continue healing me in that way. So, like I wrote down here, he told me there's no man that can love me the way he does, and I knew this to be true. I knew this, I just knew it. I knew that no one can love me as much as he possibly does. He was not suggesting that I don't love my husband or that I don't love other people. He was simply saying that the lack of love my father gave me will always and can always be filled by him, and to turn to him when I feel that emptiness. After this experience, I had many more with him. I'm not going to say many, I had a few more with him, where we worked on healing my inner child and the empty spot I keep talking about. We were working on that continuously. But this was by far the most beautiful encounter I had with him. The other ones that I had with him in meditation, a couple times we were sitting on a cloud, just sort of like dangling our feet on the cloud and looking down at the earth. It was absolutely amazing as well. But he never ever spoke with his mouth, ever. It was always telepathic communication. And that is how spirits and energy do communicate, is telepathically. When we don't have a body, we don't have a mouth, we don't have a voice, so that is how we communicate with each other on the other side. So I'm going to tell you now what I have learned from him about his life. So I learned that the original scrolls of the Bible were not ever completely seen by any of us. And the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in the 1940s in Israel. At the time, the theologians, I can't really say that, sorry, they hid a lot of the scrolls because they did not want them to be seen by the followers, because some of the scrolls contradicted what they had already put in the Bible or were writing in the Bible. So the Bible was not, at this time, I guess to say released yet to the public, but it was being written, and people knew, the people in Israel knew it was being written. The Dead Sea Scrolls were written by the Essenes community, and this community was a school where wisdom and secret knowledge was taught. These people were actually the survivors from Atlantis, and that is where their knowledge actually came from. So the Essenes buried the scrolls to hide them from the Romans, and they wanted to preserve them. They did not want the Romans to get them. So the Essenes were captured and actually murdered by the Romans, or some of them committed suicide because they were being made and forced to give up this knowledge that they had from Atlantis, and they did not want to give it to the Romans, so some of them would commit suicide. So reincarnation was actually the basis of all religion back then, including in early Christianity. After the death of Christ in the time of the Essenes, the council did not put the scrolls of reincarnation in the Bible when they were making it. And stories about Jesus's life were also not included. Around 500 AD was a time that the decision about what was included and what was not going to be included in the Bible was made. These stories included information about Mary and how she was only 16 when she gave birth to Jesus. So Jesus was actually a very active child, but he was also very quiet. He sort of kept to himself, but he gave me visions of him being hyper and running around with looks like chickens or hens, and his mother would chase him. And he actually gave Mary quite a hard time, is what he told me, just like most children do. And he actually referenced the challenges that I had with my oldest son, Nolan, because Nolan is autistic, and when he was a child, he was constantly running away. Sometimes I'd find him standing in the middle of the road, and he was just very, very sneaky like that. So she's sort of referencing, he is referencing the times that he had with his mother, and it was sort of like a sense of humor. He was laughing because he said that he gave her quite a hard time as a child. They also included information in the scrolls about how Mary was not Joseph's first wife. On the night that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, there were 4 bright lights, each in the corner of the world, that actually formed into one big light, and they shot like a beam down towards the earth when Jesus was born. And this was like a symbol that the Messiah, or the human form of God, was being born. So this information came from the people called the Essenes, who lived at the time and studied astrology. This was the marking of the new earth, and Jesus had come from a different universe in order to retrieve the souls that got caught in the cycle of birth and death on this earth. He came to spread the truth of the soul's journey and to spread knowledge in regards to what the people had lost. So Jesus had a very wealthy uncle. His uncle would take him on trips where his uncle actually traded tin around the world, and Jesus got to learn from masters all over the world when his uncle would take him to these places. Jesus had about 9 brothers and sisters altogether, including one from Joseph's first wife. So Jesus and John the Baptist were actually really good friends when they were growing up, and they were also students of the school called the Essenes, where the Essenes community and the Essenes would teach people the wisdom that they knew. And they kind of went to school there from very young. I'd say like probably, in the vision I'm getting, he's like 4. And they were taught about healing, astrology, mathematics, and much more. John the Baptist was very outspoken, unlike Jesus, and Jesus learned about healing illnesses as well and bringing people back from the dead. Now, I want to say that it's not like what you're going to think in your head, where this body is dead and then the body wakes up. This is referencing a rebirth of the soul. So this isn't like he would bring people back from the dead like in a physical way. It's more about people who had awakenings and wanted to, cleanse their sins. So they would wanted to have a rebirth. Everyone had this knowledge back then, the knowledge that we don't have now because it was not put in the Bibles. So Jesus did learn very quick. He learned much quicker than other children did. Joseph and Mary were also students at the school of the Essenes. Jesus and John the Baptist both had red hair and blue eyes. And when Jesus was done learning everything he needed to learn, he decided he was going to teach everyone about what he had learned. So there was they called them the missing I think, the missing parables of Jesus, because Christianity and the Catholic Church do teach people that there is missing information from the Bible that they do not have. They simply just not have the information. So Jesus was trying to tell me that during the years that they don't have the information of what he was doing during these years. That's why it skips to when he was born to when he was an adult, is because he was learning. He was traveling and learning from ascended masters and learning all these things that he could bring them back to the people and teach them. So, the people who wanted to learn from him would eventually gather and meet up with him in all their different houses to learn. So they would sort of meet up, and this is where the idea of the disciples came, because he had a lot of followers and people who would follow him. There was a lot more disciples than we know there to be. So they would meet at different houses, and then he would teach them the wisdom and knowledge that he had learned. He never wanted anyone to worship him or look at him like he was better than anybody. He simply just wanted to teach the people what he had learned, and the lessons that he taught were about meditation, metaphysics, and healing. He would teach the people how to go into trances and receive information the way he did. He was teaching people how to use their energy and cure themselves. He taught them about karma, the universal laws, dimensions, and ascension. He taught them that love was the highest vibration of all and the most powerful emotion. He taught them that if there was love in the world, that evil would never stand a chance. Jesus actually had more women disciples than men, because women could actually understand him more, and they understood the metaphysical and intuitive messages that he was trying to teach more than the men did. He didn't tell me why, but back then people could not read or write, so he wanted to teach people in a way that they could understand. So he decided to teach them by using nature as a way to teach them about these lessons and, I guess, healing. So he would teach them in a way where he would use, I'd say, herbalism and herbs to heal themselves. And this is where also the parables were made in the Bible. So I just want to say, you guys, that I'm spiritual. I was raised Catholic and Christian, but that religion is man-made. But it was obviously the Catholics that wrote the Bible, so that is why I'm mentioning them quite a bit. So the parables were about reincarnation, and that life exists after death. He also talked about the chakras, the auric field, that they could also heal others. Everyone could heal themselves. Everyone had the power to do so. And we actually have a healing energetic center in the middle of our palms. If you really pay close attention, you can feel a vibration in your palms. You can feel like a warmth in the middle of your hands. And that is actually because we actually can heal naturally with the energy that comes out of our palms. So the parables were about all of these things and also other things. Jesus continued to tell me that he felt lonely and lost because he felt like a lot of people did not understand what he was saying. And one of Jesus' abilities actually was that he was never able to read people, or he was able to read people and see their past karma by their auric fields, and he could know if their diseases and illnesses or their problems were from their past life. Jesus could not heal these people, even though he wanted to, because he could not interfere with the law of karma. So just like everyone else, Jesus had to abide by the universal laws, and these people had to experience what they had to experience in order to transmute these sins and dissolve them. So the current lifetime that they were experiencing, if they did have any karma that they brought into that life, Jesus could only heal their physical pain. So he did use herbs and he actually didn't use herbs, but I'll get into that in a second. He did use the energy in his palms and what we now know to be reiki, life force. If you guys don't know, I'm also a reiki master, but it's life force energy. He used this to heal others and take away their pain. Now, I do want to mention that Yeshua's healing abilities were a lot stronger than most of ours. And this is only because this information was lost over the past 2,000 years. So it's very, we sort of, because we didn't use this energy within us, most of us don't practice Reiki, which most of us probably should. We don't use energy a lot as a way to heal. It's definitely coming more now into the holistic field and things like that, but it should have been a way that we primarily healed people to begin with. So we didn't have as strong power, and I guess call it powers or healing powers that Yeshua did at the time. And also other people's powers back then, 2,000 years ago, were a lot stronger than ours now. So he would cure these people's, like, their pain, so their headaches, their aches, whatever they were feeling, he was able to do that. During these times, Judas was the one who would write the parables down, and he would write the miracles that he was witnessing. The common diseases in that time were leprosy, and Jesus would take carpenters with him to visit other villages to help heal those with leprosy, because people with leprosy could not fix things themselves. So he would go to other villages and heal people, but he would bring other people who had other abilities with him. Okay? He also brought women with him who had potions and herbs and knowledge about medicine. And I would like to reference like a witch or someone who is a healer, and they use herbalism and herbs to heal others and alternative health. He would bring these people with him as well, because he actually didn't himself use these herbs to heal people. He would have some of his disciples or his followers help him. So as you can see, Jesus also needed help from other people, just like we do, who had different gifts and abilities that he did not have. During this time, people would also experience seeing beings on discs in the sky. So when he told me this, I just kind of, I guess I laughed, because I didn't really know if I wanted to believe it or not, because some of this stuff is, I guess, something that we would just sort of laugh at nowadays, and that is what the problem is that these things were not put in the Bible, so people find them to be ludicrous or bull crap or whatever. But apparently these discs would glow and shine very brightly in the sky, and all of the people back then actually witnessed and seen these. And this was a very common and normal experience to the people at the time. And this is also where a lot of Jesus' knowledge came from when he was traveling with his uncle across the world. In this day and age, we call these beings archangels, guides, ascended masters, and angels. So they were pretty much glowing orbs that would normally and regularly float around in the sky, or I guess above people's heads is the vision I'm getting. And this is how people would access knowledge as well about astrology and all of these things. And this is actually what Jesus had learned from. He learned from the archangels. He learned from these beings that God or the universe had sent down to teach the people. But I'm going to stop that video there, you guys. This is going to be a part 1. I'm going to continue a part 2 another time this week. So I hope that this brings you guys some knowledge and some clarification or whatever. I don't know what to say about the truth about Yeshua's life and what I learned through my meditations and through him about the truth behind actually what had happened during those missing years that no one really knows about. Anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everybody.